Her worried gaze fixed on me as she examined me closely. Just as I was about to say, "It's a little selfish," I began to stroke her hand again and said, "What kind of adventure do you have planned for us?" To which she leaned in and kissed me once again. I felt a surge of adrenaline coursing through my veins as the alarm in my head grew increasingly loud and clear. Amelia made a slight expression of disapproval before responding, "Yes, but I think you can have an adventure separate from mine too." I braced myself against the bedpost, pressing Amelia away from me, and I locked eyes with her, demanding that she clarify what she meant by adventure. "You nailed it, honey. This empty nest thing has its perks," I thought to myself twice last night and again this morning. "I believe you've surpassed yourself. When was the last time we slept 3 times in 12 hours? I smiled. Since the infants were born. Amelia snuggled up to me, and I hugged my wife of 18 years. "I still miss the girls, but it feels really good to be here with you." The last 22 years flashed through my mind. Dating, and finally marrying Amelia. Then came the girls a year apart, as we became a family. The girls went from dolls to bikes, then to soccer and boyfriends, then to driver's licenses and graduation. Suddenly, they were hundreds of miles away in college, and Amelia and I were an empty family. I kissed the top of her head. "Baby, the last 20 years have flown by like a blur. I want us to take advantage of this time and be a couple again, like we were 2 decades ago." Amelia giggled. "Well, we're not newlyweds, but there are plenty of things we can do to keep the fire burning." I was ready to nod off when Amelia raised her head and kissed me on the lips. I felt completely content as I delicately caressed her hand. Her skin is so smooth and inviting. She purred in gratitude. "One of my favorite things in life is making love to you, Tim. I know you feel the same way. We're good together, and I never want that to change." I mumbled something back, which made her lean in and kiss me again. "Our relationship is wonderful, and I want us to stay together forever. I want you to help me spoil our grandkids when they come along and be there for me when we get old." I was too sleepy to answer, so I nodded and pulled her against me. I felt her palm slide down my cheek as she planted a gentle kiss on my lips. "However, I want a fresh experience before our lives are consumed by our grandkids." In the midst of my upcoming slumber, her words filtered into my consciousness and jolted me awake. "I want more thrills before we become grandparents and fade into old life." My thoughts drifted back to the surface of consciousness as an unasked question piqued my interest. "I know it's selfish, but I want to have one last adventure before I get too old to explore new things." Suddenly, a distant alarm rang. I couldn't help but wonder what she had said about the last adventure and why it bothered me. She had grand plans for us, but I'm not sure what sort of adventure she had in mind. As soon as I opened my eyes, I saw her stunning features, framed by an untamed tuft of blonde hair. Her worried gaze fixed on me as she examined me closely. Just as I was about to say, "It's a little selfish," I began to stroke her hand again and said, "What kind of adventure do you have planned for us?" To which she leaned in and kissed me once again. I felt a surge of adrenaline coursing through my veins as the alarm in my head grew increasingly loud and clear. Amelia made a slight expression of disapproval before responding, "Yes, but I think you can have an adventure separate from mine too." I braced myself against the bedpost, pressing Amelia away from me, and I locked eyes with her, demanding that she clarify what she meant by adventure. "Just wanted to let you know that Dan from Sal's was bragging about the yacht he and his brother built." Amelia gently drew away, saying, "It's okay. I didn't mean to upset you." "I'm not upset yet. Last month, Matthew made a deal. My cubicle neighbor Ava went sailing with Dan and Matthew over the weekend. She loved it and wants to go again. I agreed that it was enjoyable, and I think Ava told Dan about it, since he invited Matthew and me to go swimming next weekend." As I fixated on my wife, an unknown man approached her and asked if she would want to spend the weekend away from me. By the way, Next Monday is Labor Day, so we'll have a 3-day weekend. I know, it's selfish, but if you're interested, I can show you images of the boat. Ava said she loved sailing around the lake. Dear Amelia, I realized, darling, that there's an issue since Ava is single and you're married. She went to touch my face, and I quickly drew back. But it's just for a weekend. One final excursion. I sprang out of bed in a fit of rage because I am not going to stand by and watch you act like a misbehaving student while you and your colleague enjoy a weekend on a yacht. What gives you the impression that these gentlemen would invite 2 females to spend a weekend on their boat? Did Ava mention what they did after she left? I didn't mention sleeping with him. Amelia gazed down at the bed. It's true that she had sex with her brothers, but it doesn't imply I should have. What relates to your want to be there with her, Tim, is her narrative about floating about on the deck and then sleeping with them. It's just one weekend. You can spend this weekend however you want, and then we'll just put it behind us and forget about it, ignoring the fact that you've already got an adventure planned and I'll only have a few days to try and figure it out. I'm not interested in having an adventure with anyone but you. You could ask me to rent a boat, and we could have our own adventure on the lake, but it's not about the boat, is it? The real adventure is spending the weekend in the company of 2 young studs. Babe, I'm sorry. I think I was just caught up in the excitement of Ava's story. It sounded like such a grand adventure. I'm sorry, but I'll have to tell them I'm not going. Just 20 minutes ago, I was the happiest person I've ever been. I felt secure in our love and your dedication to our marriage. Now, I realize it was all a dream. I lied to myself and thought you were just as happy and committed as I was. But it wasn't a dream. It's real. My love for you is unwavering, and it will endure forever. I'm sorry, my stupidity. As I entered our bathroom, my wife uttered the final words to my back. I locked the door behind me and took a shower to wash away the remnants of our passionate embrace. My mind was still reeling from the shock of her suggestion. How could she think I would consent to such a betrayal? When I emerged from the shower, I found Amelia sobbing uncontrollably on the bed. She glanced up at me. I sat down on the bed as her lovely face gushed with tears. She drew herself up and snuggled against me. I wrapped my arms around her and caressed her till her shortness of breath decreased. Amelia, for 22 years you made me believe in us, in our relationship. I thought we wanted the same things, that we had the same desires. I never once doubted you until today. Oh my God, Tim, I'm so sorry. While you were in the shower, I was thinking about what I said, about what I had planned. I asked myself how I would feel if this was your plan. If you had said that 2 girls had invited you to go swimming this weekend. I almost threw up. It's so selfish, like I'm an immature teenager instead of a wife and mother. I'm so ashamed of myself, and I feel so stupid. So, what do we do now? Where do we go from here? How can I trust you knowing that you were totally willing to sleep with 2 other men? What does that say about our future together? Amelia tried to hold back her sobs. I've ruined everything now. I can't even imagine how I could have thought that such an idea could be acceptable to any husband. Baby, I guess I was just taking you for granted. You've always been so reliable to me, and I think I just gave in to a silly, selfish whim. I completely neglected and disrespected you. I thought it would be fun, so I just neglected everything else, and that's so unlike me. My darling, please tell me how I can make things right. This is very different from the you that I have known and loved for the last 22 years. Everything is on me, but how can I make amends and convince you to give me another chance? I don't know what happened to our marriage, but it's in shambles. Everything I believed to be true has now been proven false, and I'm devastated. You said that you took me for granted, but is that my fault? Am I too loyal to you? Are you bored with me? Oh my God. I'm so sorry. It was all my fault. Your devotion was so strong that I fooled myself into thinking it was okay to take your love for granted. But that was so wrong, baby. I apologize for taking advantage of your devotion. Instead, I hope you'll give me another chance to prove that I've learned my lesson and that our marriage can survive." I don't know whether she was trying to persuade me or if I was simply desperate to think that she was the same woman I'd loved for 22 years, but I nodded anyway. Amelia sobbed and kissed me as she threw herself into my arms. "I should contact Ava and tell her to inform the boys that you won't be going. Amelia, please promise that you won't be hanging out with Dan at work. Either you or Ava can let him know that it's okay to ask you to spend the weekend with him, but you should make it clear to everyone that you would never do that. Perhaps I should consider working for your sister at her bakery instead. We don't need the extra money, and she could use the help. It would be the mature, unselfish, responsible thing to do." The epilogue was Amelia's joyful words. After giving Amelia a lot of thought, I finally came to terms with the fact that our 22 years of marriage should have been cut short by a single selfish decision that she later regretted. The hurt from her disrespect remained, but I made an effort to forgive her and give her another chance. Over time, my doubts about her abilities to make amends began to fade. Amelia enjoyed her job at the bakery until she retired to spend more time with her grandchildren. I still have around a year and a half to go until I can join her in retirement, and she has assured me that she is prepared for a new adventure with me alone.